I know. God. Yes. This recording doesn't age well with the Zach Butters talk. I get it. I'm putting timestamps in. You can skip ahead with it. But this disclaimer to start the video, yeah, I recorded this video at 1:30 p.m. today. The news just before 5 o'clock. It's just after 5 o'clock as I'm doing this party. The update officially Collingwood out of the Zach Butters race. But in saying all that, the meat and potatoes of this video is just Collingwood's approach to getting certain players. The Moneyball approach versus the big fish, aka Zach Butters. Uh, I think that sort of talk remains. So I'm not going to delete anything or just disregard certain topics or whatever. I will leave a pinned comment. Yes, I know the Zach Butters talk doesn't age well today. Yes, I know I should have been talking about Zach Butters prior to this sort of video, but the basic video and the meat and potatoes make sense for this. So I'll leave it up. I'll leave your comments down below, your thoughts on Collingwood's list management strategies and their off-season targets. I hope you guys enjoy this video. G'day guys, Nate here. Long overdue for me to make this sort of video for Collingwood season, talking about Collingwood's off-season targets, trade rumours, news, rumours, scoops, you name it. This is going to be a brief sort of video just to plant the seeds as the home and away season has officially come to an end. We've got the wild card round Friday night against the Western Bulldogs. I'll have the preview to the Pies v Bulldogs Wednesday night for the wild card round game. Thursday night, team selections, final word. Saturday will be the review of the wildcard game. I am planning on making a video Tuesday night, but if I'm busy or not, I'm going to find out next 24 hours. Just floating that out there. Have to watch this space. I'm making this video for you Monday afternoon. I'll upload it Monday night. So if there's any sort of murmurs or any sort of updates or changes and it doesn't age well, I apologize. I'll post about it or comment about it with a pinned comment or whatever. Just whatever. I hope you guys had a good weekend, and I hope you guys are going to have a good week as well. It doesn't feel like finals just yet, but I'm going to make this video, maybe a video tomorrow, and then get into all systems go for the wildcard round. But this video, just talking about Collingwood's off-season targets, what's being reported, what's being rumoured, my expectations, and just our overall list strategy. Some of it makes sense, some of it doesn't make sense. I'll look to verbalize it all, and I'll have you guys leave your comments down below. Maybe give me some inspiration and just, I'd never really considered that sort of point or whatever. But hopefully I cover all my bases here with the off-season targets, and I get to finally talk about Zach Butters, linked to Collingwood. Now, not officially linked to Collingwood per se, just the free agency, the murmurs there, most likely going to leave Port Adelaide. It'd be a shock if he stayed at Port Adelaide after all. I mean, there's some valid reasons to stay at Port Adelaide internally for them. As an outsider, we probably won't be able to understand it. Similar to how Collingwood fans wouldn't understand Zach Butters nominating Richmond for free agency, but they've made their moves. They've laid the groundwork as well. Richmond have picked two in the national draft this year, and they can offload that to Zach Butters if Port Adelaide match the bid for Zach Butters or the free agency stuff, which I think they're going to do. Now, Collingwood, a couple of weeks ago, we shot our shot's more better than that analogy. For Zach Butters, 8-year contract, $1.8 million a year. He'd be the highest paid Collingwood player in history if Zach Butters nominates Collingwood off that deal. But you'd expect Port Adelaide to match that bid. And when they do match that bid, it goes to a trade. And what would we offer up for Zach Butters? I've seen the comments online. What do Collingwood have to offer for Zach Butters in a trade? Well, the same that Geelong and the Western Bulldogs have right now. If anything, Richmond's ahead in terms of what they could give up for a trade. They've got their pick two. They may have a player they can offload as well, but they've also got future picks as well. Expected for Richmond to stay at the bottom of the ladder. Now, there is the possibility of trading future picks into this year's first year or first round and then trade that to Port Adelaide, but that's a lot of work to be done. We could do that, but for us and Zach Butters, we've got players out of contract this year at Allen, a big example there, where we're basically holding off right now and just seeing what Zach Butters decides. We think we're a chance. I don't think we're going to land Zach Butters. I'm trying to keep the faith. I'm more hoping for the best, but expecting the worst outcome in Zach Butters nominating either Richmond or Geelong. I've always thought we've been in the mix for Zach Butters, but we've never been on the podium. Start of the year, it's been the Bulldogs in front. I still think it's the Bulldogs to lose, and then Richmond and Geelong second and third trading spots. Now, in recent days or recent weeks, it's looking like Geelong is in front. They haven't done what we've done in terms of offering a deal. They've probably met with Zach Butters, but in terms of offering the contract or whatever, that's to be played out. Richmond, they're going to offer the most money, and it's going to likely be front ended as well. So, hey, we're going to be at the bottom of the ladder, but we're going to give you a shitload of money, $2+ million a year, possibly 3 million, and then lesser money towards the back end of the deal. But you'll be playing finals consistently on the MCG consistently, and hopefully winning premierships as well. So that's Richmond's pitch for us. We're looking to stay at the top of the ladder, get out of the mid-table this year, move up the ranks next year and beyond. And that leads to that Lachie Neale sort of talk, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. But for Zach Butters, if it comes to a trade and he nominates us, yeah, we got to offer up our future first round picks and a first round pick to get it done. I'm not looking to give him a weaker deal. I think Zach Butters is the sort of player where you trade your future. Yeah, and it sounds bullshit to say that for one player, but Zach Butters coming to Collingwood turns our midfield group around, our clearance work, contested possessions, tackling, even though tackling's pretty good all round, but just our overall midfield key stats and metrics, they improve with Zach Butters coming in, and I would give up future picks and a first round pick and maybe a player, i.e. Ed Allen, but it may get to a point if it does get to Zach Butters nominating us that we may not have a choice. And a player like a Rowan Steele, Harvey Harrison, Angus Anderson, Ned Long, that sort of player, someone that's either on the fringes or they're in the best 23, but they're not the best 6, 8, 10 players, for example. They may be traded in a deal for Zach Butters. We may not have a choice. They may not have a choice. But if for whatever reason it gets to that point, then we can discuss it. But for me, my expectations, I don't think he's going to nominate Collingwood. And I wouldn't be surprised if Port Adelaide's telling Zach Butters in his exit interview, look, if you want to leave, perfectly fine. Just don't go to Collingwood. Josh Carr not being happy with us, announcing ourselves, wanting to get someone like Zach Butters to Collingwood. That was about a month ago. That little sort of skirmish and announcing that sort of stuff, that might be another factor as well. I wouldn't be surprised if last year, for example, Jack Silvani leaving Carlton saying in their exit interview with Silvani, hey, if you want to leave, that's fine. Just don't go to Collingwood. I think that's a factor right there. But if we don't land Zach Butters, the big fish, what do we have left in terms of off-season targets? That leads us to Lachie Neale, who will be an unrestricted free agent if he leaves Brisbane. The murmurs, the likelihood of him coming to Collingwood's pretty good. It's stronger here compared to Jack Silvani to Collingwood last year. But you never say never with this sort of stuff. Lachie Neale could change his mind, stay at Brisbane, or there's the go home factor with Perth and WA, West Coast there. Fremantle, minor premiers, pushing for that first premiership. If they don't win the premiership this year, I could see them deciding, you know what, bring in Lachie Neale. Let's go all out for this one. So you just never know with Lachie Neale and personal factors as well. I won't go too far into it, but there's also the cultural factor for Lachie Neale in terms of his clearance work and his midfield game. It improves our midfields already if he comes to Collingwood. You add in Zach Butters, and it's a bottom four midfield group. All of a sudden, it's a future top four midfield group and a top four spot yet again for Collingwood up the ladder. Just touching on Zach Butters, right, and us holding off on Ed Allen staying at Collingwood or extending his contract. Holding off because we're waiting for Zach Butters. Now, if we don't land Zach Butters, which I think will happen, if Ed Allen decides to look elsewhere because he feels he's being insulted or disrespected, someone like Lachie Neale could see that and decide, you know what, what's happening at Collingwood? Ed Allen leaves, Zach Butters not coming to Collingwood, you're not getting off-season targets and players want out. Then he decides to change his mind and go elsewhere. I know St Kilda said they're not in the race for Lachie Neale, but it's St Kilda. I wouldn't trust them. So just, yeah, I'm not saying he's going to go to St Kilda, but like little things like that. Just be very careful on that sort of stuff. And for Lachie Neale, it seems like it's more personal circumstances for why he's leaving Brisbane. Not because like he's hated by Brisbane, but just with what's happened in the last 12 months. And I'm surprised he's not nominating a WA club. But if he wants to come to Collingwood, if he sees a future at Collingwood or another premiership at Collingwood, yeah, I'd take him in. Midfield numbers are there. He's 33, 34 next year, similar to a Tom Mitchell recruit in 2022 heading into 2023, where I'm not expecting Lachie Neale to win a Brownlow medal for us. If he comes into our midfield group, makes Nick Dacos look better, makes other players in the midfield look better, i.e. Ed Allen, if he decides to stay at Collingwood, Jordan De Goey, if his body's holding up, other players coming to the midfield, Bo McCreary, hopefully plays midfield minutes more often next year. But yeah, I'm on board for Lachie Neale, and if we get Zach Butters in the process, even better. But other players we're targeting, and it's GWS in Jesse Hogan and Jake Stringer. I'll go with Jesse Hogan first because I'm a bit ambivalent on Jesse Hogan. 46 goals, 16 games last year. Jesse Hogan, I'm not big on bringing in. I'd rather keep Mitch Badatsky over Jesse Hogan, but looking at our list for next year, Tim Membry, if he's offered a 1 year deal, Dan McStay out of contract next year, Charlie West, our future key forward, Jack Buller out of contract next year, Zach McCarthy being a ruck forward, Aliro Smith, ruck forward, but Aliro Smith's out of contract this year. Jesse Hogan wouldn't play any ruck minutes or anything like that. He's a key forward. He's basically the free version, the demo version of Ben King, someone who you need or he needs silver service platter delivered to him. He can kick straight, but when the ball goes to the ground in that forward line, he's pretty much irrelevant, similar to Ben King. Ben King offers a lot more, but he's going to Hawthorn. And I do think Ben King was a fumble for Collingwood. We laid that groundwork for years. He says he's going to change his mind and stay at Gold Coast for 2 years. Then he changes his mind again and Hawthorn swoop in. I think that's a fumble. It's not a big fumble, but it's still a fumble anyway, that big fish, and we don't land him. And he's going to Hawthorn. But for Jesse Hogan, it's the free version of that. It's not the best version of Jesse Hogan. I don't expect the Coleman Medal version of Jesse Hogan. And because we're not getting the Coleman Medal version of Jesse Hogan, I'd rather not get Jesse Hogan. I'd rather develop Mitch Badatsky, give him a full preseason, or we draft a key forward, i.e. Sam Gafer. But for Jesse Hogan coming in, it's going to clog up our forward line. What that means for a Charlie West and his developments, or Dan McStay and Tim Membry, that connection, that partnership there, what it does for our forward line, that's why I've got some doubts and concerns. Jake Stringer, though, uh, Jake Stringer, 48 goals, kicked 6 goals against Adelaide. I didn't watch the Adelaide Giants game or even Geelong or Richmond for that matter. We guaranteed our opponent in Western Bulldogs, and I didn't watch any footy Saturday night. But Jake Stringer, 48 goals this year, 4 times this year, kicked 5 goals or more. First game this year against Hawthorn, kicks 5 goals, ends the season kicking 6 goals, kicked 7 goals against Fremantle, and then there's another game with 5 goals against Brisbane, 5 goals. That was that epic performance there. Uh, Besides that, it's either hit or miss for Jake Stringer. Just the 25 goals last year, but take it into perspective as well. 25 goals last year. You apply Jake Stringer 2025 form into Collingwood's side this year. He's our third highest goal scorer with 25 goals. Nick Dacos, 24 goals. Lachie Schultz, 24 goals. Jordan De Goey, 20 goals. Angus Anderson, Ronan Steele kicking goals. But we don't have a lot of firepower in the forward line. It's very weird. Our midfield group's not there, but we're still kicking a respectable score with multiple goal scorers, but we don't have the one forward that's kicking multiple goals, i.e. Jamie Elliott last year. So there's that factor. And another factor as well, Jamie Elliott coming back next year. We've got young, small forwards in Justic Centre yet to debut. Harvey Harrison, Will Hayes, Angus Anderson kicking goals. Roan Steele playing on the wing, but he can kick goals as well. Lachie Schultz as well. Bo McCreary doesn't kick goals, but there's another factor there. So our forward line could be clogged up next year with Jake Stringer, Jesse Hogan. But I'd rather draft a Sam Gafer or draft anyone really, a small forward or a mid-sized forward for that matter. We're going for a Lachie Neale who's 34 next year. Stringer and Hogan also in their 30s. It's not a rebuild, but are these players really valuable to Collingwood and lesser extent as well, the cultural aspect as well? Lachie Neale, those personal circumstances. Jake Stringer, oh man, the recent sort of issues there, losing trust with playing group at GWS. Jesse Hogan, though, I think the personal factor isn't there anymore. I think he's beyond that. His professionalism's there, just his body's not holding up anymore. But I look at these off-season targets. Besides Zach Butters, it's Lachie Neale, Stringer, and Hogan. Is there anyone in their mid-20s or someone about to hit their peak or their prime? Is there anyone there that we can draft or not draft, but get in, for example? The last few years, it's mostly been the Moneyball approach. Lachie Neale, Hogan, Stringer, yeah, their numbers when they're playing 15 plus games, it's there, and we'd like that, but it's not going to be a long-term thing. And that's the problem I have getting these players. Lachie Neale would be 3 years. Stringer and Hogan, that's year to year sort of stuff. Stringer would be free. He was delisted last year. Hogan, you'd trade a second or a third rounder, probably more third rounder, given his last couple of years and just his body being banged up in his age. But we'll trade in good faith for GWS or for Hogan if it gets to that point. But surely there's players like Colshadir, for example, not getting games at Hawthorn. That's a young key forward there. That's someone I'd be willing to invest in, trade a second or a first rounder for, a future pick to get that deal done. Uh, just someone like that. I don't understand why we're linked to certain players who aren't getting games or who aren't wanted at their clubs. For Brisbane, right? Lachie Neale leaves Brisbane. That's just a blip on their radar. They've got midfield players up the wazoo. They're still going to be one of the best midfield groups in the competition besides Lachie Neale or without Lachie Neale. Going 2027 and beyond. But Lachie Neale would be an important player for us in that cog in that machine. But for Stringer and Hogan, are they really going to provide any value for us beyond this year? Outside of the Moneyball approach and their numbers, Jake Stringer, 48 goals, you'd want that, but there's also the cultural aspect, and also there's no guarantee he's going to kick 48 goals for us. A goal a game, yeah. Pinch hitting in the midfield, yeah, but I think the negatives far outweigh the positives. That's just me right now. We need to be more proactive. We need to be, louder in this trade period. Last year we were quiet. I had that expectation last year we were going to be one of the more, if not the most quiet side in the trade period. This year we can't afford to sit back and be quiet. We need to be proactive. We need to bring in certain players to fix certain areas, i.e., the midfield group, besides Nick Dacos. We need goal scoring power, but I think we can find it elsewhere besides Hogan and Stringer. In the back line, we're solid. Howe expected to play on one more year. You'd expect Darcy Moore to return and play as a key defender. I don't expect Darcy Moore to play as a key forward. Uh, there's the Dan Houston factor. I'll talk about that in a future video. Perryman comes back in at some point, and obviously next year, Quaynor, Maynard. It is aging, that back line, so we need to add a bit of depth. There's Sam Swatling playing across half back, so there's that factor. And a few other, moving parts and whatnot. It is mid to late August as of this recording. So once other teams and their seasons come to an end, you're going to see names pop up that were not linked to us or unexpected names. And all of a sudden, hey, let's go for it. So 2 years ago, when our season ended, or right before our season ended, John Noble, we didn't expect him to leave. We weren't expected to land Dan Houston. We weren't linked to Harry Perryman. And then we got Perryman, we got Houston. John Noble left. You just never know. So the names right now, Butters, unlikely to get. Lachie Neale, very likely to get. Hogan, we're leading that race, but you just never know. There's Gold Coast interested in Jesse Hogan. Jake Stringer wants to come to Collingwood. We've basically told Jake Stringer, look, we're going to focus on our playing list right now and other targets first, and then we'll look at you. But that is all for this off-season targets, my expectations, and just our overall list strategy. I haven't really talked too much about the list strategy, but getting 30-year-old players in or players over the age of 30 while we keep Pendlebury for one more year or Jeremy Howe one more year doesn't really make sense to me. I don't understand why, but if we're linked to a Zach Butters or any other player in their mid-20s that can provide value to us, the Moneyball approach, I'd be all for it. But getting these 30-plus-year-old players, proven players for sure, but can they bring value to us? Can they bring an element of their best form to us? That's to be seen. I'm sure Collingwood's weighing that up, but we'll find out once the off-season officially starts for us. Again, we've got the wild card round. There's a season to be played out. I'm waffling on at this stage. I'll leave you guys all to it. I hope you guys have a good week. Please be well. Please be safe. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Up the pies.